Right, good evening and welcome to, I think, Restart Sailing Show 22, is it, John?
Yeah, a bit different from the original three shows we thought we were doing anyway.
Yes, so I'm Simon Lovesley, the founder of Restart Sailing and also sail racer, joined by John Emmett. Looks like not quite in the UK there, John, I don't think.
No, still in sunny Lanzarote. Can't really sail in Finland this time of year for obvious reasons, so I'm here coaching and has also done a little bit of media work just to, try and promote sailing in general.
Yes, that's good. So, yeah, we said three shows, three stages, didn't we? Um, but sadly, I think we're back to this stage, aren't we?
Well, yeah, I mean, Lanzarote, out of interest, we're in stage four here. So just like being at home, I've got a little bubble here in the villa with people I can see, and I'm looking at myself closely in the video camera to see if I'm getting a tan line for a mask.
Yeah.
So we got the next stage up after aggressive
Yeah,
social
yeah.
distancing. Yep.
And
So
the
that's what
moderate
we're
one.
hoping to come back to.
Yes, so
22nd of Feb.
yes, we're waiting. Well, we won't be going to the 22nd. I don't think it starts on the 22nd of Feb, does it? I think that's when the plan is laid out, isn't it? But the talk obviously is schools going back sort of during March. I guess the phased reopening of schools. But Boris seems keen on exercise, doesn't it? I think that's the good news coming out.
Yeah, and I think exercise is very important, not just for physical well-being, but for mental well-being. And there is a difference between exercising on your own and activities where you have a lot of people in close proximity. And I think single-handed sailing fills a very good void there. And I think for a lot of people, the main sailing season is sort of April time. So I think that next winter is going to be super busy if the competitions can go on.
Yeah.
Super busy.
But it's been good to see the focus on sort of exercise. I think Sport England put out a 10-year strategy, didn't they, last week? And that was very much about getting the nation healthy and fit to really avoid some of the problems that we've seen.
Yeah, well, I think one thing with sailing, maybe if we have a slight reset, so that club sailing or grassroots sailing gets a little bit more focus. I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah,
to
and
come out
I
of
think some
this.
other sports have been really sort of banging the drum about how they can help and things like that. So I think sailing ticks all those boxes, doesn't it? From a mental health, a fresh air, and outdoor sort of basis. Right, so we're still getting the question about the Olympics, aren't we, John? Is that not gone
Yeah,
away?
well, I think that's probably a good general idea of the state of play worldwide, what's going on there. Will the Olympics happen? And oh no, it's cut off again. Okay,
Oh, your
I need
chart.
to play this. The full slide, you can see that we're actually past the peak in Japan, and the peak is now coming down. So I obviously need to review that because the slide that I put is very slightly different one from what's appeared on the screen.
Yeah.
But yeah, Japan has gone past that peak, and things are now very definitely heading the right direction.
And I think that was the feedback from the scientists in the last day, wasn't it? That fingers crossed, all the numbers are still looking horrific. They are starting to sort of go in the right direction, I think was the feeling.
Yeah, and I'll make sure the slide is better for the next show.
All right.
I was just a sailing coach up to about 2020.
All right. Multi-talented, eh? And the Restart Sailing Group, busy as ever?
Yeah, I think when any news comes up, it's really good that it gets sounded out very quickly. I mean, going back to Japan, I mean, I really hope that we're there in June for the World Cup as the sort of up to the Olympics. So I think I can see on screen, but not elsewhere. We have a guest waiting.
Okay, well, we're not quite bringing the guests in, but hopefully there. But yeah, so the group's
The
been
show's
busy.
all live.
Yeah, it's been busy. Good to see Russell Crowe popping up. I think he's been quite famous, dialing into Pip Air in the middle of the.
I must admit, Simon, I didn't quite recognise him because he was looking a bit like Grandad from Olsen Fools and Horses.
Well, yes. Yeah. So apparently,
to a gladiator.
Radio Solent, who's obviously the local radio station around here, has been sort of following Pip Air and everything like that, and had picked up that Russell Crowe is one of her heroes, and managed to somehow engage with him and got him to do what could have been a spoof call across the satellite.
You've got to say, the Vendée Globe, I mean, it couldn't be better timing. It's just, it's so sad that competitions, to a certain extent, get decided by collisions and gear failure.
Yes, that's right. And, but Boris sitting in a fishing boat, I thought was quite ironic, as we came into the harbour. Right, so still the same message. Stay at home.
I mean, we were actually talking about trying to have a NHS frontliner on this show, and it really just to put the message across that the NHS is at capacity. But it was very sad. Our guest was actually worried about negative comments on YouTube and things like that, and we understand that concern. And of course, we're very, very happy. I can see her waiting in the wings to have Penny Clark come on in a minute. Long-term friend since Toppers, I guess. It's very long
well, we'll bring Penny in a minute, but I guess we're getting a consistency of message now, which probably is reassuring, isn't it? The messaging has stabilised.
Yeah, I mean, this is our third lockdown, so we should really know how to do it by now. It's a bit sad that some of the statistics suggest there's more alcohol and more TV consumed, if that's the right word, and less exercise. So the messaging there is really important, and I guess some of that's connected to the weather. But yeah, pandemic fatigue is a bit of an issue.
Well, the exercise levels has fallen certainly across from lockdown 1. Could well be the weather, as you say, and also you say fatigue from the whole situation. But good news on the vaccine front. That is going well to plan, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I actually see the news from all around the world, so to speak. So in one respect, international news, from European countries can't believe quite how high the UK numbers are. But recently, they're a bit worried that the UK has an awful lot of the vaccines, and are they going to share, because we have an awful lot more than we have population.
Well, yes, and as people pointed out, you can't just vaccinate one country. You will need to vaccinate all countries. So
I know some people feel the BBC is a bit negative, but my understanding is, and I don't understand any other language than English, that they're a lot more positive than the other news channels are about it.
Right.
So I think we're leading the curve in terms of the vaccine and fulfilment. So that's such a good thing. And it's just a case now of buy-in from the populace.
Yeah, good. So, bit of uncertainty in the UK sailing scene. So the RWA have sort of sensibly pushed the youth nationals, haven't they? Also,
hats off to them for making an early and good decision.
Yes, means the summer's going to be very busy.
The second half of the summer, unfortunately, we will have a lot of event clashes. I mean, close to home, it looks like there's going to be clashes with the Ilka and the Princess Sophia Regatta, which is just unheard of.
But that event has also been moved, hasn't it? I think.
Yeah, we're waiting. In the next week or so, we'll have news of where some of the European Olympic qualifiers are.
Yeah, so they haven't got long. Yes, and it was interesting actually. The RS 400s, I think, are limiting to 50 boats. So although there'll be lots of clashes, the supply will be highly limited. That clubs possibly can't take full quotas. So,
I think that's just the way we have to go. Lanzarote Winter Series, they had the Olympic classes spread out over 2 venues and over 2 weeks. And that meant that in terms of boat parks and everything, the group size was super small.
Yes, so that's good. Sadly, the Fireball Nationals were cancelled, which was a bit of a surprise. They were due to go to Abersock, but SCYC there have made a conscious decision actually only to have local events, which was something that we saw last year. So it could be quite an interesting time for classes this year.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand their reasoning, and I also think that we have light at the end of the tunnel in May. I think things will be a lot better in September. I think 2022 is going to be a fantastic year. So I do understand why people want to be cautious at the moment.
Well, yes, and I think it's almost the view that the vaccine's here, but let's not take the foot off the throttle. We need to sort of work things down.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's almost like a fight, isn't it? You have to
Yes.
keep it. You can't.
Right. Okay. So looking at some more exciting scenes, it's time to bring in Penny, I think.
So I had my introduction all set for Penny because it was originally Penny and Russ, and I was going to say Russ beats Penny in every race over the water in the 5:05, but he hasn't managed to beat her home. So yeah, I didn't want to waste a good joke with a bad one.
No, and we call it even Stevens because I beat him in every race in the 400. So yeah.
So can you just, first of all, just tell us a little bit about your lockdown experience and what's going on for you personally? Because there's lots of stories for different people. I think it really helps the people at home.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, as you say, everyone's got a different story in lockdown. First lockdown, I actually got to spend some time with Russ because we both got locked down and everything shut down shortly. Which is pretty rare. Those people who know me and Russ know we spend an awful lot of time apart. Me being a sailing coach, disappearing off around the world, and Russ being in the Royal Navy, disappearing off around the world. So the first lockdown was quite a novelty, and we sat down at home and reintroduced ourselves. But Russ very quickly had to go back to work. I'm sure, as people are aware, military helping out massively around the country, and you know, people that Russ is looking after, he's got them working in the Dorchester Hospital now, so you know, he's doing his bit as well as keeping the Royal Navy operational and our helicopters flying. So he's back at work working hard, and for me, I'm doing what I can, both with the government guidelines, staying at home, but then trying to keep the British sailing team going and still working with them and doing some coaching. So there's still activities going on down at Weymouth, which is fantastic. Feeling really safe down there with how the academy's worked throughout the whole period when it's been allowed to open up and when it's had to shut back down again. So we know we're in a really privileged position in the British sailing team to still be allowed to go sailing and do organised training when so many people can't. And on the converse side of that, Russ and I have actually this lockdown chosen to not really go sailing. We can sail from Stokes Bay. It's a public slipway. We have access to our boats. And the club is supporting that for locals to go locally sailing. But we've chosen, with the weather conditions, the temperatures, that we've basically said we just feel at times the risk is too great. We don't want to put any weight on the rescue surfaces and the RNLI. So we've chosen to do other things and done a lot more cycling. And as soon as it warms up, we'll be out there in our 5:05 getting some training going.
So you're cycling in this weather?
Yes, I might have signed up to Zwift.
Oh, right, okay. I was just wondering.
Yeah, this lockdown, as you say, the weather's just been rubbish, and that's been cutting down what you can do and the hours in the day. You know, it's still dark in the evenings. So I'd written my own training plan and was sat on a turbo trainer doing my bit in the garage, but I soon got bored of that, and Russ managed to find a second-hand smart trainer. And so he's been doing a bit of Zwift, and that's got me into it. So there's ways to keep it interesting, and keep it fresh. So yeah, a little bit of Zwifting.
So fantastic picture in the background. 5:05. I think I've got it right. That was Tiger.
Yeah,
pretty full on. Can you talk us a bit about the class and what's both happened or not happened, and what's hoping to happen? God, that's
yeah. It's going to be an interesting time. Russ and I, we were really lucky actually. A couple of years ago, the UK 505 Class Association has a class boat, and we managed to borrow that, put it in the class container to go to Australia. And the first time we sailed a 505 was in Australia, in Fremantle, as we unloaded our boat out of the container, which was absolutely brilliant.
And was that the doctor as well?
It was the Fremantle doctor over Christmas and New Year. Brilliant opportunity. So great to know the class has got that facility there. They try and lend out for a period of time. We were lucky that the sailors who'd been given the boat and had competed on the European circuit that year couldn't afford to go to Fremantle. So, and the way the calendar worked, it meant we weren't taking it off them. They'd finished the European calendar, and we picked it up and put it straight in the container. So, yeah, if people are out there and they want to do a season in the 505, then I believe that class boat is still out there.
A season is just enough to get you hooked and make you buy your own. Is that how it works?
That is exactly how it works. I mean, Russ has always wanted a 505. I was a little less inclined because, you know, the UK fleet isn't massive, but the real attraction for us is the quality of the fleet internationally and where they go.
I was going to say that it just meant Russ could eat whatever he wanted. he's not here, is he, to defend himself?
I'm not saying that on a recorded episode, but it is one of the few boats that we're actually the right size for, that we can sail the right way around, with me being in control at the back.
That's the right way round, is it, Penny?
Yeah,
this bit's recorded. So I just realised I should say to people, so Fremantle, it gets very hot in the summer, and they have a cracking sea breeze called the Doctor that comes in and cools everyone down and makes them feel better, which is probably the reason why people who come from that area are so good at sailing in strong breeze. So that's just the name of the wind, in case anyone was wondering what I was talking about. I forget these things sometimes.
No, it's probably one of the best sailing venues in the world down there. So yeah, we didn't even make it home before we bought a boat. We actually bought one of the boats that was coming back to the UK from Fremantle while we were there. It got us hooked that quickly, and we haven't looked back since. You know, the UK fleet isn't massive, but the standard of sailors in the UK is
good though.
Yeah, really good. And with, you know, before COVID, we went abroad and did some great events. The ones that I couldn't do because I was working, Russ managed to become a bit of a crew tart and crewed for some of the top helms in the fleet, which also accelerated our learning as a team. Crewing for Howie Hamlin. I saw that. And then also Howie Hamlin, who's a multiple 18-foot skiff world champion, JJ trophy, and also multiple 505 world champion. So he's been learning lots. Did a bit with Paul Brotherton and the Bloody Mary. So yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic. And the class is just starting to get together. We've just lost our nationals for this year, but we're looking for another venue.
There's still time. It's only February. There's still time, Ben.
Plenty of time. You know, it wasn't through COVID that event has lost its venue, and that's all we've lost. So we're trying to make that happen. And we've been really proactive. There's a group of us getting together and hoping as soon as we can to organise some group training, probably down at Weymouth, because that's where we're Europeans. And then hopefully to organise some racing, unofficial racing, as soon as we can. So yeah, the class in the UK will hopefully get a resurgence, because we're going to find it hard to get abroad this year.
Well, I think the ball's in your court, isn't it, Penny? But you're doing the good chat at the moment.
yeah. Well, that's it. You know, come on, let's all get off on the water. But no, there's a real buzz with some of the sailors in the fleet. I think, rather than losing interest over the winter, everyone's actually starting to say, come on, when are we going to get back out there? When are we going to make this happen? When can we go racing again? And that's really good to hear. So yeah, looking forward to it.
And it's nice to have that, I'm trying to think what the word is, Simon, that the household sailing.
Yeah, the household bubble, which we're keen to promote, certainly some of the events that we're involved with. We're putting trophies in for the household bubbles now, trying to be politically correct. So
is that Craft Inshore sponsoring?
Yeah, the Craft Inshore, the family event. I think that's something we've lost a bit in sailing, isn't it? The families sailing together, and that's always been the strength of sailing. So we're keen to sort of encourage that. And Penn and Russ are sort of flying that flag for us, I think.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think, you know, there's lots of downsides, and we can all get really negative about being stuck in lockdown and what's going on. But I think there's huge positives as well. I think, you know, the UK circuit could have a massive resurgence. I think you've alluded to it already about club sailing coming back. Stokes Bay Sailing Club, not that I have spent that much of my summers there because of work, but this summer I've never seen it so active, so friendly. because everybody could suddenly appreciate it, get out on the water. It's one of the sports that we could do at a much earlier, at various stages of the lockdown. And I can't wait for the club to reopen and to get that atmosphere back. And I'm sure there's loads of clubs all around the country that saw exactly the same, because there was nothing else that was stopping us doing that. And I think you've alluded to it, but this autumn and summer in the UK could have some of the best events, and it could just be back-to-back events. And yes, there'll be clashes, but I think there'll be way more enthusiasm to do them, and we'll all be out there getting involved and doing what we can, and I think that bodes really well for the future of sailing within the UK.
Well, I think there'll be clashes, as we said, but that won't matter, because there'll be so much sort of people wanting to go. It'll be back to the old days, really, when you could only go to a sort of a regional traveller if you lived in the region that you're in. It would be that sort of being able to sort of select it down. So yeah, it's looking encouraging.
Good for club memberships as well, I hope.
Well, yeah. So the feedback is that a lot of clubs are bursting at the seams. I think they're now actually turning people away, interestingly, which we haven't seen for many years.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, moving on, another big event that sort of is still happening.
And I guess another first, really.
Another first, yeah. The famous, world famous, I think the only dinghy show, isn't it, in the world?
Well, Lily's been promoting it very hard to the Chinese audience, because it's going to be the first occasion that they can all easily attend.
Yeah, and I think that's. I mean, I've been involved in some of the REA conferences recently, and they're getting a massive input from the international crowd. It's probably about 20-30% of the audience, which we don't see because they can't come, but they can now.
If you get the Chinese sailing side, I think that is a massive audience.
Yeah. Well, we have a stand there. John and I have been involved with this. We had a big sort of meeting with our tech group, didn't we? I think on Monday.
I tried not to fall down a mountain because my timing was not fantastic.
Exciting things going there, but yeah, send the Chinese our way, John.
I think you'll find that there will be an awful lot of people who attend that physically couldn't attend. So
yes. I mean, you always do actually. You do get some good international sort of visitors coming at the Dinghy show, but it's a small number, isn't it? Because it's obviously expensive to go. But I think it'd be interesting to see the stats afterwards. I'm sure they'll be sort of there hanging around. So yeah, that's sort of what sort of our stand looks like. We can choose to have our avatars, so we can pick what we look like. So we're having fun there.
Done that all my life, but there we go.
choose to be an avatar. Unfortunately, things like the Seldom Sailed Your Sweeney series are still under our AP. Not quite sure where we're going to get to. Andy Rice and I are sort of talking about how we try to handle that. We may be sort of announcing that. But in the meantime, we've been doing really, as we committed to do something each of the events that we should have had. So it should have been the King George Gallop, which I think Penny and Russ have done quite well in the past, haven't you?
Yeah, we did it in a fireball, I think, a few years ago.
Yeah, so
fireball 400.
And I think the current champion is a certain Mr. Emmiott, isn't it? Is that right?
Yeah, I think nobody was more surprised than me, because I'd just flown back from Australia and I was absolutely half asleep, and I got pretty close to where we were meant to rig up and realised I left my top section in the car, and somebody had parked so close to me I couldn't get it out. And anyway, it was interesting, but I was very pleased to go there. So I don't know, as a D jet lag, I think that's probably one of the best things you can do. Go sailing at 20 knots and get hit in the face by freezing cold water. It certainly wakes you up.
So last weekend we looked at sort of some innovation and things like we're doing on handicapping and things like that, which had a lot of interest. This weekend would have been the Tiger Trophy. The Tiger Trophy's now been moved back in real time to the summer, hopefully. But we'll be doing the history of the Tiger Trophy. We've got people like Dave Wilkins, has been the PRO, I think, since the beginning. Dave Hall joining us, I think, who's probably the only person that's actually done all events. I think that's his claim to it. Ian Walker will be joining us. Obviously, he has a massive connection to the event.
Needs no introduction.
Yeah, so again there, and a bit like the history of the Tiger, the Bloody Mary that we did recently. These events are the history of dinghy sailing when you look back at them, and quite fascinating when you look at some of the old pictures. No one seems to smile in the old pictures.
I can't believe how long ago everything all started. Well, what you've got to remember is cameras weren't so good in the past, so we just had to hold the same facial expression.
Well, I think it was partly that, John, but also when you look at the gear.
That's tongue in cheek. Yeah.
The sailing gear wasn't too good. When we looked at the Bloody Mary back in the 70s, they were cold. And also, I guess it was a colder era, wasn't it? I mean, the Bloody Mary was always snowing, wasn't it?
I just remember the first time I did it in a topper. I went all the way around the course, and myself and about 20 other kids were all, well, it was called PMS in that day. We were all over the start line.
All right. I thought you were traumatised, but...
Well, I don't think I went back for a few years, but I don't think that's related.
Yeah, but it's fascinating to look back. These are a sort of a history of sailing as well, Right. So in terms of the events, well, everything's sort of moving around. Sorry, Mr. That. But hopefully we might get something in March. But we wait for. I think the official announcement was the 22nd of February, weren't we? We were working out.
Yeah, that was my understanding.
Yes, but they certainly take a more of a cautious approach. Right. Okay. Now back to the real business.
Well, yeah, Penny could probably help me out with this as a coaching legend, but just trying to get people to be focused and to have that feeling of achievement. So we talked a little bit about SMART goals. And I was thinking back to when I first started, we talked about, I'm really pleased to see I haven't got any spelling mistakes in this one as far as I'm concerned, as far as I'm aware. We talked about time to grow, and just to really, really clearly define what we're up to. So the goal is, what do we want? And obviously it's something that you desire to achieve, not somebody desires for you to achieve. But it's something that you really want. And you have to have a bit of a reality check, because, you need to think where you are now. And then it really comes down to the options that are available to you, and actually whether you can do them, whether it's a time constraint or a financial constraint. Will you do it? There's probably quite a few... people feeling quite frustrated in the UK about being able to train and so on at the moment. But the people who are here who are sailing full time, we've got sort of Hannah from the 470, Dylan from the 49er, you've got Charlotte from the FA. I mean, they're working really, really hard to meet their goals. And, what will you do? Well, they do a lot. The days of amateur sailing, they're along the same lines as, I don't know, Premiership footballers' fitness or any other incredibly high level athletes. So I don't know what your thoughts are, Penny, but I think having a bigger picture rather than just going sailing every day is pretty important.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the perfect thing to remind people of right now as well, because there's a lot of people away from their boats. And it's easy to just think, I'll jump back in and the club pecking order will still be there and I'll still be at the top or I'll still be at the back, where actually now is the perfect time to start thinking about this. Russ bought an OK over a year ago now, and of course hasn't had the opportunity to sail it or race it. His OK is now bimbled to within an inch of its life.
So that was one option he definitely had, to play with the boat on shore.
Exactly that. But my thing is, now is the time. If you want to go sailing, the minute that we can go sailing, let's make sure our kit's ready. So the reality of where's your boat, can you do anything on it, what needs changing, what didn't work last season. And then the other thing that Russ has done, which has surprised me a lot.
It's a good job he's not here, isn't it?
Actually, he has turned up, I think, back from work. But yeah, he's got himself a hiking bench, because if he can't go sailing, he knows he hasn't hiked since he was 16 years old. And that's probably going to be one of his biggest weaknesses. So the reality is...
Are you saying he doesn't hike in the 400?
That's not what I said. I said he hasn't hiked since he was 16. So yeah, he's got himself a hiking bench, and he's putting some time in on that, so that when he goes sailing, he can actually go out there and enjoy it and spend a decent amount of time on.
I'll tell you what, Penny, if Ross is enjoying hiking, you have to tell me his secret, because I think that might be an overemphasis. On the pleasure involved. I mean, everyone likes to go upwind faster than their rivals, but Yeah, you need to be a special type to get pleasure from hiking.
Yeah, but we all like the longer downwinds, don't we? So we know that if we can be a bit fitter and one, if you're fitter, you'll go faster, so the beat will be shorter. I mean, it's common sense, isn't it? So if you want to hurt for less, get fitter, because then you'll be faster and you won't spend so long on the upwind leg, and you will have more fun on the downwind.
You get more rest between exercises.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect thing, and we're all doing it, and there's a bit of frustration about where the events are this year, but what do you want to do? What is the event that you want to go and achieve? It's a conversation that we've had with our 505 training buddies, Roger Gilbert and Ben McGrain. What were they going to go and do this year? What do we think? So we're trying to focus on the Europeans in Weymouth, because we think regardless whether that's a Europeans or not, it's an event that's highly likely to go ahead, even if it's only a national event. So we've already set our goal. What do we want to achieve there? Where are we now? Well, none of us are sailing at the moment. And then we've put all our options down. When are we going to go sailing? How can we meet up? Can we go sailing at Weymouth? Where else can we sail? Who do we want involved in that? And what are we going to go and do about it? So that's exactly the process we've gone through.
Maybe I didn't pay her to say this, Simon, by the way. Maybe for the OKs, just to do some days down. Is it Lyme? Where were they?
Lyme Regis, yeah.
Yeah. Lyme Regis for them, and unfortunately, their event in Garda clashes with another event, so Russ isn't going to go and do that. I don't think that's a bad thing. One way hiking in Garda to the corner, it doesn't sound like much fun to me.
And then a tiny bit over the corner just to be safe.
Yeah, exactly. And Russ is getting a bit worried about his strategy in the OK, because all the boats he's sailed, if you go over the ley line, there's a reward because they're planing boats, so you can foot off and plane. And he suddenly realised the OK is probably not going to do that.
If he's planing in an OK, I'll put my money on him to win.
It is exactly what we sat down a week ago with Ben and Roger on a Zoom call and went through, and what we're doing with our 505. And I encourage people to do it because it really gets you excited about the season to come.
So we're expecting big things from the Brits then, Pen. You heard it here first.
Well, Roger and Ben are currently European champions, so I'm sure their aim is to retain their title, and I wouldn't mind taking it off them.
Very healthy goal.
Good. Right. Okay.